everyone, and welcome to another episode of Live Better. I'm your host, Chad, the story catcher, Ia Peterson. That is a lot to say. I've got to come up with a better way to put those words in my mouth, but we're glad to have you back. I am back in the studio and not in a little rundown hotel room streaming this week, and it's good to be home. I missed you, but I also missed my camera. So, we are going to do some exciting things today. We have a very special guest. It's a dear friend of mine, Megan Powers. Now, Megan has been in the game for a while, and one of her areas of expertise, her superpower, happens to be in the world of taking a live stream and repurposing it into a podcast. And she has an incredible podcast, Make a Marketer. And actually, I believe I'm going to be on that show here in a few weeks, unless we upset her today and she changes her mind and realizes she can do better. Anyway, I am glad to see you. We're just going to jump right into it and get going with Megan because I'm excited about this. Podcasting is not something I've done much with, and I'm ready to sit here and do this with you. And that's why every Wednesday we get together here so that we can learn together how to live better. Oh my goodness gracious! There she is. I feel like
Hi.
I feel like I just saw you.
It's almost like we just hung out in Vegas or something.
I know. How crazy was that? That you were there. We had a few other friends that were there. People for different conferences. It was kind of nice to realize that things were starting to maybe open up again, and there was some normalcy. But it was also just strange to know that there were so many of our friends and whatnot in town at the same time.
Yeah, well, it's especially strange for me to have you in that space since that's the event world is my realm. That was when you sent me that he sent me a picture, y'all. Oh, this show on the show floor, and so then I knew I was going to see him.
So the conference she's talking about is IMEX America. It's a conference for event planners, different venues, showcase what they've got to offer, and software companies. I was there helping put some video together for a company called SwapCard. Really enjoyed hanging out with them. And so, yeah, I had gotten word that Megan was not only in town, but she was actually at the same conference I was going to be. So I sent her a selfie of me there in the middle of the showroom floor, kind of freaked her out. So, because that's not my world, right? I'm not an event guy. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. But how did the event thing become your thing?
So, well, if we go back to the Stone Ages, early in my career, I was a Marcom manager, and so I was in charge of trade show participation, planning, conferences, user group meetings, that kind of thing for the software company that I was working for. And then cut to 7 years later, I ended up really on accident working in a venue. And then I worked in several event production companies. And then, so then the last 8 years I've had my business. That's been my primary vertical because of all the time that I spent in the industry. So most of my clients have been in that space. And actually, I used to host the podcast for the company that you worked for at IMEX.
That's right. In fact, if you want to see some old YouTube videos of Megan hosting her podcast and her show for SwapCard, they are still there. So, you may not be there, but you're still there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the last one I taped was last December. So it's been about 11 months since I was a part of it.
Gotcha. Well, look, it's interesting. We try to give you a heads up on some of the things that we're going to ask, but Venice already in the comments made a mention that she's been considering live streaming her podcast. She's not sure what to do or really how to get started. So what are the benefits of actually broadcasting your podcast live versus maybe repurposing it after you've done a live video into the podcast? Is there pluses or minuses? Which do you prefer?
Well, we do both, actually. So when I got started in 2017, I attended the Podcast Movement Conference, and at the time we had planned to just do once a month. And what I heard by and large was that it's really hard to gain traction on a show with listeners if you only have one episode per month. And so at this time, video is becoming hotter and hotter. And so I thought, well, since we're marketers also, right? It's a marketing podcast. Why not walk the walk? And so I decided to do every other episode live. But then I give my editor the audio file, and he edits it just as he would any other episode, with the exception of, some minor tweaks that I might make because of something that happened while we were live. But for the most part, then it's a matter of, for me, walking the walk, like I said, as a marketer, but adding dimension to the show. It's an opportunity to have people hear it, right? Even though they're seeing it on video, right? That who might not listen to the podcast. And I do the same thing. Like I have video shows that I know are podcasts, and if I miss the video, then I may listen to the podcast or I may not. So I don't know if that answers the question that you asked or that she asked. I mean, there's a lot more I could say, but we have lots of other questions, right? So
we do absolutely have others. Let's see.
3 episodes a week. Wow.
Yeah, that's
aggressive. I like it.
A lot. Tony's asking if you're talking about audio podcasts or video podcasts, and what would be the difference there?
So it's funny because podcast. This is becoming an interesting thing. The word podcast, by its nature, is audio. It's audio only. So you can have a video broadcast and you can have a podcast. But the term video podcast to me is something that's kind of strange. And actually on Monday Night Football, Peyton Manning said, because the Manning brothers are doing this fun thing on ESPN2 while they're like basically just doing commentary throughout the Monday Night Football game. And he said to Draymond Green, who is on my Golden State Warriors, good luck with your new video podcast. And I was like, oh, okay, that's cool, I guess. So I'll be interested to know if that's the same thing, right? If they're just pulling the audio and just throwing it onto a podcast platform.
No, I agree with you.
But to answer her question too, yeah.
Sorry. Well, because if you download a podcast software, or app, it's on your phone. They're audio, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So you can watch the video, but listen to the audio, and that's the thing too that I laugh. I tease my guests sometimes when they hold something up, and so I say, well, that doesn't really play well on since this is an audio platform, but I will describe for our listeners what you just showed us. We usually get a kick out of that.
Do you create your live show so you can create your podcast, or is the podcast just something extra you have because you have your live show?
No, it's an audio first. It's a podcast first, and I say that a lot too. But I do, I chat with the viewers, and that is still part of the show, as it would be, like this one, answering questions and that kind of thing from the audience. So, and I guess another part which I didn't mention is that it, people consume how they consume. So some people are video people, some people are audio people, some people just want to read a blog post, and so it's sort of like this, also meeting them where they are. And I will have people in my family, especially. I don't think a single family member has actually listened to my podcast, but they have definitely watched the videos. So there's just something about meeting people where they are, in part. And so I think that too, potentially, can gain new listeners, can help build community also with the people who normally listen, who then may watch us when we're live.
Is there a huge difference in the number of views or listens between your live stream and the podcast?
So that's an interesting question. I haven't looked at like any of the metrics on video in a long time. I probably should have before this, but I don't really. I think, our average listening base is the same, regardless of whether it was originally on live video or originally audio only. And when I say audio only, we do record in Zoom because it's an interview show, and it's really nice to be able to see everyone. And in the first 2 years, we had 3 co-hosts, and so it was really nice, like for the cues for us, like to know who went next, kind of a thing. Like we would all be on mute unless we were talking, and then once you take yourself off mute, then your co-hosts know that you have something to say. So that really helps. Pure podcasters, still think Zoom is awful, ridiculous, but I think that for me, the audio quality is, is fine. It's good. So.
Gotcha. And why would the purists say that? What's the difference in what they're doing with their audio?
Well, there's just audio snobs. It's just a thing. There are people who, they definitely they think you should have a mixer and the whole, like they want to get super fancy. I guess something, I don't know if it's similar, but how you, Chad, like this video setup that you do for your lives is super complicated compared to what the average person would. Like me, I just fire up Restream and we go, I mean, I do create my backgrounds and stuff like that, but so I think maybe that's part of the difference is some people just think that audio should be pristine.
Sure. No, I get that.
I think you should just do it. I think you should just do it. Like if you want to do it, don't let that hold you back. Don't let and I know we're going to talk about equipment, but yeah, I think that just going for it is more important than making sure that everything's pristine.
Now, people do podcasts for multiple reasons. One obviously is to place themselves as kind of an industry expert, as a go-to person, to give them a bit of clout. But others also do it with the hopes of maybe monetizing the podcast that they're creating. Has the live streaming component helped you in any way as far as gaining sponsors that maybe you wouldn't have? And if not, what are some ways if somebody does want to get sponsors for their show that you would suggest maybe going about doing that?
So this is interesting. Okay, I'm going to answer this in 2 parts. The first is I have not taken an outside sponsor. I've had some inquiries, but I haven't gone down that road yet. Having said that, I do think that the video element lets you're not going to, in the audio, you're not going to just mention them constantly, right? You're going to maybe do an ad read at the beginning, maybe in the middle, maybe at the end. But on video, you can have their logo up the whole time. So there is a difference, I think, in that visual element, and their name and their company name, and then their logo can actually be on screen as part of your graphics. So I think that's an added bonus. And actually, if you want to do, like, I consider what I do, I guess it's a hybrid, right? I like I said, it's an audio first. Podcast is the primary thing, but video is that avenue that I'm using to create a different dimension to the show.
Interesting. So for those of you out there who are wondering, wow, can I get sponsors? Apparently you can, because if you listen, Megan said she hasn't really gone down that road, but people have actually reached out to her. Am I understanding that correctly? You haven't solicited sponsors.
Yes.
People have come to you and said, hey, can we do this? Correct.
And I have a little bit of a thing about sharing what the downloads. I will say that I'm super happy with the downloads that we have, and I am, every listener that we have is valuable to me. To be honest, when I was like, we got 5, if we got 5 on the first episode, I would have been like, cool, like, but I still have, for example, Kelly Noble Mirabella was on actually she and Kendra Losey were both on in 2018, and they are both still the highest downloaded episodes of all 5 seasons so far. So because people are going back and they're listening to older episodes. So yeah, you just never know like where those listeners are going to come from. Like all of a sudden I'll get like 30 downloads in a day, and it's on a variety of shows throughout the years, and I don't know where they're coming from. Like I don't know how. That's one thing with podcasting. It's a little bit difficult to track how people find you.
Gotcha.
But I will say, well, and on social media, I track the links on social media, so I know how many clicks I'm getting on the episodes. But most of them are coming straight from people who are listening or who have subscribed, I think, on their podcast platform of choice.
That's outstanding. Also, by the way, guys, speaking of subscribing, don't forget you can click the old subscribe button and the bell to get notified, or you can like and follow us here on Facebook. We're also streaming on LinkedIn as well, so you can get notified, or you can go to our website, and the producers will put a link for you to go there, and you can just sign up, and we'll send you a quick little email, not only of when we go live again, but of new features and updates that are coming to Wave.video. In fact, everything that we create here on the show is done in Wave.video. And so let me sidetrack just a little bit there, because you're actually a fairly decent Wave.video user. Am I correct?
Yeah, I am. In fact, I'm so familiar with it that when I went to create a longer video than I would normally make for a friend, I had to upgrade and I had to do 2 separate videos that I then merged in iMovie because I was still too long, because I really didn't know how long it was going to be. So yeah, I love it. Super easy to use. And I love it, especially for like creating, this is silly, but just like creating videos for people's birthdays and that kind of stuff. That's my favorite use of it. Silly enough.
I love it. For me, it's the ability to quickly recreate what I already made into formats for the different platforms, landscape, portrait, square, and
right.
They all have their different sizes, and so I love the fact that I can repurpose those and then create a video landing page for it right there within the tool. So it's a great tool. And since we're talking about kind of repurposing today and tools, let's talk a little bit about tools and equipment. Somebody wants to get started taking their live stream and putting it into a podcast, repurposing it. What do they need in order to make that happen?
So you can have an awesome editor like I do. He lives in Israel. He's amazing. He's been working with us since episode 8, and I just published episode 93 yesterday. So, but there are a couple of platforms that I think that are free, that are web-based, that you can use. I think that where you can upload your video, and I think you can extract your audio, but I'm not a great person to ask about that, because you know what they say, if there's something you're not good at, punt. So that's what I punt over to Avery, and he handles that for me.
Okay, so he edits it, he puts it together, but so now I've got this great audio file of a show that I did and interviewed a superstar. And was that an airplane?
It was, yeah. I live near the airport. Normally, sometimes it gets, it's not even taken off. That's just a jet that's super loud. That's taxiing. Apologies. But awesome. Yeah, this is the thing sometimes when you are, here. But I did want to say too, though, sorry, you interrupted yourself. So I'm going to cut back to Restream provides a separate audio file. So I don't have to actually extract the audio from the video anymore. I can just download the audio file and download the video file and send the audio file to my editor.
Gotcha. So now you've got this super audio file. That's what I was getting at.
Okay.
But it's just an audio file right now. How does it become a podcast? How does it become something others can now consume?
Well, you have to find a platform on which to publish. So there are providers, Libsyn, Podbean's who I use, Buzzsprout. There are several platforms where you pay an annual fee, you upload the files, and they send them out to all of the different podcast platforms for you. But you have to use an Anchor is another one. Like you could just use Anchor and just publish right from there. Although, the quality of Anchor is maybe not as awesome as some of the others, but yeah. So
And
that answer the question?
Anchor also sends it out to the different whatevers.
Yes. Yeah.
What do you call those? The best podcast hosts? Is that what?
It's funny. Okay, the host is the Libsyn or the Blueberry or the Buzzsprout or the Podbean, and then it is podcast platforms, basically platforms, apps. Yeah.
And what are the if you're going to have a podcast, are there certain ones you want to make sure your show is on?
Well, yeah, Apple and Spotify right now are battling out for what's the best or most popular. They each think they are. So anyway, but yeah, those are the two primary. But then there's so many others, names of which are totally escaping me right now. Stitcher. Anyway, but yeah, so any major podcast platform should be included, and you can usually check that off in your settings within the platform that you are using to upload. And the thing about that too is that you're uploading the file, but also that's where you put your show notes. And like on Podbean, it's making a podbean.makingamarketer.com or something like that. Like it's my own individual webpage, which is where all the episodes go.
And how important are show notes? What role do they play?
It depends, like most things, on who you ask. They, in my view, should give a taste of what the episode is about. You want to have someone, if they pull it up on the website or on their app, to be able to understand what the episode is about, but you don't want to give away everything because you want to give them just enough to make sure that they then go and listen.
Is there an SEO component to that at all, or?
There is, and honestly, I'm a believer that you should write well and write how you write to the topic, and then the SEO will come versus trying to SEO bait.
Sure, gaming the system there.
Yeah. Absolutely. I do try to. I'm getting more conscious of how I title an episode based on what would potentially get more traction. But I think it's like if they found your show, they found your show kind of a deal. But before I started streaming directly to YouTube, I was downloading the Zoom video or the live stream video and then uploading it to the website. So the Zoom videos were always just, I just have this like library of videos I haven't done anything with, but everyone I've done live is on my YouTube page. And that was for SEO. I've like I've like 22 followers or something on my YouTube page, but because it's not something I've really put a lot of energy into, but that's where I have put all the videos. So now they're going there directly through Restream straight to YouTube. So then all I have to do now is add them to a playlist versus the download, upload, and do all the things,
Gotcha. Hey guys, by the way, make sure that you're engaging with us there in the comments, because our most engaging people will be up for a chance to win our prizes. Of course, every week 3 winners will be sent a pack of our new stickers, our Wave Wave.video Live Better stickers. Let's see if we pop those up. Oh, they cover our face. I was on the other side last week, so it covered me. I apologize, Megan. And in no way am I trying to just put that up there so that you can see the very loud and obnoxious yellow-faced version of me that has been turned into a sticker. It kind of freaks me out, and at the same time, I won't lie, I think it's kind of cool to be a sticker.
You like the Simpsons character.
That's what my wife said. The team at Wave.video, they just call it Yellow Chad.
That's awesome.
So I love it. There's Yellow Chad. So, but one of the 3 winners of the stickers will be our grand prize winner today, and Megan has kindly offered to give you 30 minutes of her time to help answer your questions, or maybe help you just kind of lay the groundwork so that you can get your podcast started. So, good stuff there. Have you worked with other people in the past and helping them kind of get that rolling, or what are some of the things you've done with others?
I haven't, but I did. And it's funny too, because people ask me, how do you monetize your podcast? I mean, like, why would you do it if you can't monetize it? And so just to go back, it started as a passion project. I got invited to host I had a industry colleague who had an audiovisual podcast, and most of the people that he had on he had this whole crew of people, and then they would have guests, and most of those people were installation, like audiovisual installation people, like, all the lighting, video, audio that goes into places of worship and all that kind of stuff. And so because I worked in live events, which is also a huge part of the audiovisual world, he had me host shows on that. And then he said, you should do one just on marketing. They called me Megan the Marketer on that show. And so in 2017, that's kind of when I launched this. And honestly, like, I didn't really expect to get anything out of it. It was, like I said, a passion project. And also, I thought, well, as a marketer, this should give me some credibility as well, right? And then I get to talk to all these great people who teach me. That's the thing about every guest I have on. I feel like I want to learn from them. And so that's a big part of all of this for me. But I did then get asked to host a podcast for money because I had a podcast. So it monetized itself by that. Like it has paid for itself just in that year and a half that I was hosting that podcast that I just, I'm no longer doing because they have someone in-house who, is a podcaster. So, and now I'm in talks also with a major media company in the meetings and event space about hosting a podcast for them starting in the new year. And then that'll be a revenue share. They're going to get the sponsors, and I am going to, benefit from the revenue on those sponsorships. Anyway, all that just to say, I feel like if you're passionate about something and it's something you enjoy doing, then good things will come. And to try not to always, because I think I think the average is like 7 episodes for podcasts that a lot of people quit after 6 or 7 episodes. And so my biggest piece of advice would be to not give up, would be to like just keep going. And if it's something that you're passionate about and really into, then it'll show.
What are some practices that you put into place that allowed you to keep going and at the same time grow the podcast? That's a question from the audience, by the way.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So consistency. I record. We set the live is always the second Tuesday. Granted, because it's once per month, I don't recommend if you're going to have a live show in general, doing it once per month is not going to help you get a whole lot of regular people. Like, this is great because it's weekly, right? But I would say consistency. So I do that. And then the last week of the month, we record the one where Jen Cole is my co-host. We haven't mentioned that yet. I do the live shows by myself, and then in the hosting, and then she's usually in the chat helping out. And then she and I both host on the every other episode. So, and I just, I have a run of show, and so I get the things from the guests, and then we create our questions. And I think just consistency and just really being deliberate about what you're doing. And one thing I really, really have made it an effort to do over the last year and a half has been to have more diversity in the guests that I have. And I am now, I know a lot of really, really smart people. And so I've been able to have them on the show. And now it's expanded to people that I don't know that are getting introduced to me through like guests that I've had on who have said, you should have these people on, kind of a thing, which has been pretty awesome.
So because is that why you brought me on? Because I'm a yellow sticker now. That was a diversity group that you hadn't had yet.
Yeah, no, I saw you speak it. So, I mean, I'd seen you speak online, but I hadn't seen you speak in person. And after Social Media Week Lima, I thought, oh, well, we have to have Chad on. And it is for me like a matter of like putting people in the right places, right? Like I had my most recent guest is Tim Ash. I met with him in June, and he was shocked that he couldn't get on our schedule until November. And I was like, well, part of it's because it's not weekly, right? It's only twice per month, but also because I'm trying to be deliberate about the diversity of the people that I have, and like when the shows happen, when they do, that kind of thing. So you'll be the first guy with hair that we will have had on for a long time.
Wow.
Just randomly, we had like 3 bald guys in a row. I think it's just hilarious.
That is too funny. Well, good. Well, I'm happy to be there here soon to represent the haired people, the haired men of the world. So very, very neglected segment of the population. So our voices will be heard. So speaking of being heard, you don't always have control over what's coming from the other side. So when you have a guest who they're great at what they do, but they're not a live streamer, they're not a podcaster, and they're really not going to be coming in, and you don't realize it, especially to the last minute, with audio that's super great or a connection that's a little spotty. How do you handle or deal with those situations?
Well, I try to give them instructions in advance and make sure they understand that they should be in as quiet a place as possible without, with as little ambient noise as possible. I ask them if they're able to be on a hard line, to be on a hard line instead of Wi-Fi. I ask them, if you have a mic, use it. That's usually something, if someone has a mic, they don't need to be told that, but wear earbuds. And now I've taken that a step further, and I've asked them not to wear the wired Apple earbuds, because you know what happens, right? That little mic hits their earring, it hits their hair, it hits their collar, and there's this rustling sound that happens, which drives me crazy. But yeah, I mean, just try to, but that's the thing too. And that's part of why I'm not overly concerned about whether audio sounds tremendous coming from video in a video experience, is because I'm an interview show. There's so much already that's out of my control. So I can only control what I can control, but I do make jokes. Lighting is, I think, the biggest thing too, is in terms of video. So as we were going on, I said to Chad, I look super washed out right now, but I'm just in my window with natural light. So it's kind of a weird thing, but I do have guests, and I'll ask them, are you in the witness protection program? Because it's so dark where you are. Can you shine some light on your face so that we can see you? So silly, but yeah, I mean, you just try, and then just know things are gonna go wrong, right? Any technology, things can happen. So
no, absolutely. That's the great part about it. And it seems like every week as we're doing this show, I always tell everyone that we're here to learn together how to live better. Because I'm on this journey as well. There's so many components and pieces and things that saw you in Vegas. I was there shooting video, and I took my lights with me for that event. And typically, I come in, we get ready to do the show, and I turn on my lights. Everything's already set and ready to go, and I didn't think about it. And we were rushing this morning, and I look orange because I didn't reset the lights to the color that they're usually on. And so if you're wondering, why does Chad look like an Oompa Loompa again? And if you wonder what that's about, you'll have to go back and watch a previous episode. But
orange, yellow, whatever.
Yeah, I do all the shades of the rainbow here. Stay tuned next week. We'll see what color Chad turns up as blue. But yeah, so so things happen. I totally get that. When you're promoting the show, let's talk about getting listeners. Do you promote the live stream, or do you do more promotion of the podcast component?
I do both. So I try to get out. You can't set that you're doing a live until 1 week before, right? So I try to not do it too far out, but as close as possible in order to actually get some traction. But yeah, no, I definitely advertise it before. I don't then advertise that the video. I don't try to get people to watch the video. Replay, like if they either do or they don't. I wait then until I have the audio, and then I do more promotion of okay, it's up, that it's published, let's take a listen, kind of a thing.
Gotcha.
Make sense?
Gotcha. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Venice Robbins says that she discovered the same thing about the earbuds, by the way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
awesome. Someone else asked what your thoughts were on subscriptions to podcasts.
Okay, so I wonder if they mean, hopefully they're still here, if they mean based on like getting people to subscribe to a Patreon or something, like where they can pay money to be a subscriber, or if they just mean in general. I mean, in general, you want people on the platforms like on Apple and Spotify. It used to be called, you used to subscribe to a podcast, but now it's follow. So you follow a podcast, and then you're going to get the download. Every time you open the app, you'll get the most recent episode.
Gotcha.
Paid subscriptions. Okay. Yeah. So this is something it's been on my to-do list for a really long time to do a Patreon, but I just haven't done it yet. So, but I highly recommend. I mean, because even if you only get, $5 here and there, at least that's a little bit of money, but you're not paying people to listen. If people are paying for your Patreon, then they are paying to support you. And be part of a community. So I think that's more. But there are things that you need to do for Patreon. Like you need to do some things that are more special for those people also. And I think that's part of what's held me back, is that I don't know what would that be, because I feel like they should get something that the people who aren't paying don't get, and I just haven't kind of dialed that in yet.
Gotcha. Is there a way to just turn your regular podcast into a paid subscription only access as well?
I don't think so.
Gotcha. I didn't know, and I don't know what the exact benefit. I guess if you were incredibly popular, and you're like, people will pay to see me, I guess you could figure that out.
No, it's generally that's generally a no-no. In fact, there's a lot of discussion in the podcast movement group on Facebook of like, I mean, some people have asked, can I charge my guests to be on, kind of a thing? And it's like, no. I mean, if you want to get them to sponsor it, then maybe, but then there's like kind of a weird thing with a sponsor paying to be on. It just depends on the integrity of your show and what you're trying to do.
That makes sense. When you decided to do the podcast thing, I don't know if I asked this exactly. Were you already doing the live show, or were you already doing the podcast and then added the video component later on?
Yeah, no, you didn't ask me that. No, I had been doing, back in the days of Blab, I started doing live video on Blab for a client that I had, an event technology company that I had. And so I was doing an interview show on Blab, and then taking those videos and putting them on their YouTube page. And then I started doing on live video when Facebook then shortly thereafter had live, so you could go native. You could go live natively. This is before all the awesome things like Restream and StreamYard and all that have existed. And so I was doing like a tip of the week on there. So I already had gotten used to like doing live video. And the interview element is something that I enjoyed much more. And so I think that's part of why like doing a podcast as an interview show, excuse me, made the most sense. Ooh,
Gotcha.
frog.
Do you think that there's people out there that go the podcast route just got out of the fear of the camera?
Probably. Yeah. And I think I see that a little bit on in like the community, on the podcast movement community, where people kind of talk about that. But yeah, but I could see that. But yeah, I guess it just depends on what you want to do. And again, there are podcasters who are purists and they think, why do you need video? You know, why bother? You know, kind of a thing. It's an audio thing, but you know,
people get, it's funny how like crazy people get about their little thing, you know, and like you said, purists, and it's sometimes people go a little overboard. It's funny, you know. We this gets turned into a podcast as well. Are there other live video streamers out there that you enjoy that also then repurpose as a podcast?
So it's funny because I had to write it down because I'm like, what is that show called? Social Media News Live with Jeff C. and Grace Duffy. Like that. I love that show. And I typically will try to, it's on at 8 a.m. on Fridays, which is a little early for me. But if I don't catch the live, then I'll listen to the podcast, and then the Social Media Examiner podcast. Those are really the only two that I could think of when I was like, but I think a lot of people do what I do. Like they do a live video and then they make it a podcast, but theirs is video first, kind of a thing. So.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think, our friend Ian Anderson Gray, I think his probably is more video first and then repurposed into a podcast. But also one that I enjoy. Venice mentioned a couple here. Breaking Point's YouTube channel. She says they have an interesting subscriber option for their podcast subscribers. So, and that they're great about adding value to the people that actually do subscribe. Speaking of subscribing, you can subscribe to our podcast on Spotify and all the different platforms. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel or follow us on Facebook, or go to our website and sign up, and we'll just email you next time that we have a show planned. But you don't even need to know when it is, because it's every Wednesday at noon Eastern. And you can also find the Making a Marketer podcast on all of the platforms as well. And definitely you want to go and subscribe to Megan's incredible show. If for no other reason, because Megan is just one of my favorite people on the planet. So outside of being a great marketer, she's an awesome human being, and we've had some really cool chats in the past. So I'm grateful for her from that standpoint as well. Yes, I'm getting all sappy here on Live.video today.
Like all the feels.
It's the orange. It's the orange light. I think it's the orange light that's doing it. So you won't know about the orange light if you see this on the podcast, but just picture me in a fedora and orange. So and Megan's lighting makes me look even more orange.
And I try, I do that, like try not to get the reflection in the glasses kind of a situation. Keep the head down.
There, a friend of mine, John Pullum, he'll put his contacts on, and then he has a separate pair of glasses for his shows where he took the lenses out. Oh. So he still has the look.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I thought it was clever, and you can't
pull that off.
You can't tell. It's crazy. Like, you really can't tell. He was doing a show and show people one day, and he was like, "Look," and we're like, "No way, that's incredible." So there's a fun little trick. Let's see. We got a couple other questions that are popping up. But before we do that, guys, Wave.video, who puts on this show, and was nice enough to ask me to be a part of it. It has available for your live stream tons of incredible templates that you can use, overlays, backgrounds, right on their platform, Wave.video. They're customizable, and they're available to you. And so we just wanted to give you a quick little look at some of those. And then we're going to come in, we're going to give away our prizes and ask just a couple questions before we wrap up for the day. There you go. And now we're green, and I'm not sure if this green background is also having a little bit of effect on the hue of my orange face today. But lights and colors, they're so much fun. Megan, somebody had a question. I know you have an editor for your podcast, but they're wondering if you do all of your own social media marketing for your podcast, and if there's specific platforms or methods that have worked best for you.
So we have a Twitter, and so that is that, and then all of my personal things, I put it everywhere. And I will say that I noticed an uptick in listenership when my co-host started also promoting. So if you have a co-host, or if you have someone in your corner who can help you promote, then that's kind of, I think, the best thing. Yeah, I do my own marketing, and I schedule an Agorapulse. So I will schedule out like the most recent show for a month, like, every other day. But then I also give more love to other episodes that we've had on. So sometimes, we don't go too far back. But I think gratefully, most of the content on the podcast is evergreen. Like, I feel like there's very few guests we've had on that are like, oh, well, that's not going to work anymore. And to be honest, that's in part why I don't really do a lot of shows on like Facebook ads and stuff like that. That's like constantly changing, because
Sure.
it immediately becomes irrelevant. So that's something. And also, I've been trying to focus too on general business things, or things that, like, as a human, that are cool, versus like, because marketers are business and humans too, right? So also
Most of them.
yeah. So hopefully that'll like also expand our listenership as well. Kind of framing it as a business podcast also.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Is there, being evergreen, has there been an episode where maybe something was just starting to get a little bit more traction, or people were discussing it, and you thought, you know what, we have a podcast episode on that. Let me reintroduce it.
Well, funny you should say that, because Kelly's episode, it was on chat marketing, and quite a bit has changed since 2018. But we had her back, and so then the joke, and we had Kendra back also, and we're like, okay, now you're in competition with each other for first and second. Like, it's been this little back and forth, but I do like to do that too. Like, between Dan Genghis and Eric Fisher, I'm like, hey, y'all, you're only two apart. Who's going to pull ahead? Like, jokingly. Of course, I'm trying to get them to promote their show too. Right. But yeah, I had Kelly and Kendra back, and I was like, okay, now your thing is to beat your first episode. So we'll see. We'll see if that happens. So far, not so much. But yeah, I think chat marketing is a great example of one of those things that was like super hot. And I do think that SEO and the way that we titled those shows really, I think, help those episodes.
What makes somebody come across as dynamic on a podcast? Like, for example, okay, like we both know Kelly. You brought her up. You see her on stage and on video. She's very right. She's very animated and fun, and fun to watch. But how does that translate then to audio only?
Well, I mean, I think you can hear people's energy, right? I think having people on who are not just going to be monotone and just answering questions, and like, sometimes it's hard to know that without knowing a person. I don't do this often. Actually, I've only done it a couple times, but having a pre-call or like a prep call with your guest isn't a bad idea, even if it's only 10 or 15 minutes. And then you get the feeling for each other. My most awkward episode I ever did was it was the first time I had ever done a show with two people I had never met before, and I hadn't talked before or anything. And a show still, I think, was pretty good, but I did not feel good throughout the whole thing. And I thought, oh man, I should have done a pre-call with these two. And so that's something to think about, to get familiar, and it could help them too. I don't want to talk too much to the person because I don't want to blow, we joke that sometimes in the green room, like we waste really good conversation in the green room before we get on air, and I don't ever want to do that. And I don't want to be like, I don't want to try to repeat this great exchange we just had. So it's kind of silly. Same thing with me in golf. If I go to the driving range and I get too many of my good hits off, I'm at the driving range and I waste them there.
No, that's a great point.
You need to find a sports metaphor. Always find a sports metaphor.
I've shot video of other people interviewing other people, and while I'm getting some things together, they'll start talking, and I'm overhearing it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is really good stuff. And I think you'll probably agree, then going back and telling somebody, okay, we need to have that conversation again. It's just not the same.
Right.
No,
it's not. I mean, you can throw things out like, remember when you told me this or whatever, but yeah, it's totally not the same.
Yeah. Not everybody's like a great actor, like, all right, now pretend I've never asked you this before. It just doesn't feel organic. Venice asked if there's things that she can do to help optimize the SEO on our podcast. And I know that you said that's not something that you put a lot of focus in but you're more about just write the way you write and let the SEO kind of take care of itself. But are there some things that people can do?
Well, I think putting keywords, like things that you want people to search on the internets, put those in your subject. That's a start, right? Because wherever your podcast is or wherever you're publicizing it, then that should play a part. But and then just speak to in your show notes what it's about. Also, I mean, and I think someone's asking me this about having your own domain. Yeah, and I have Making a Marketer podcast.com, but I haven't done anything with it yet. But yeah, you will hear that a lot. Highly recommend. And in fact, I bought it right the last conference I attended before the shutdown, before COVID. You would think I had all that time that I should have done it, but I didn't. But anyway, yes, highly recommend that you don't just have the feed through your host platform, but have a website as well that supports the podcast.
And Yulia, who actually answered that question there, is part of the Wave.video team. It's one of the great things about this show, guys, when you tune in, and if you are commenting and you're asking questions, if it's something maybe we don't cover, we're all going to be coming back through and replying. And we've got specialists in all different types of areas, SEO and promotion and visuals and graphic design. And all the team members at Wave.video are very much bought into making sure that we take care of our fans, the customers, our viewers. And so you're going to have people come in and answer your questions. It's a really cool group to be a part of, honestly. They really all pour their hearts into making sure that they take care of you. So super excited about that. All right, let's give some stuff away. All righty. Here we are. This is our other fun little layout. And by the way, guys, these overlays and templates and fun little layouts, go to Wave.video and you can get these and customize them to look just the way you want them to look for your brand. Everything you see here on our show is made there, Wave.video. So Megan is giving away 30 minutes of her time so you can have a really incredible organic conversation about getting your podcast up and running or getting it to where it is you need it to get it. It doesn't matter what level you're at. She's wanting to have a conversation with you. And heck, honestly, you just want this 30-minute conversation just so you can hang out with Megan because she's Megan. So, all right. So, who are our lucky winners? We've got 3. First, our 2 winners who are going to be getting what? That's right. They're going to get a copy of the stickers that cover up Megan's face with my yellow face. That's right. You get the yellow Chad along with all of these other cool little stickers that Wave.video's put together. And those are going to Tony Rockcliffe and Emma Peterson Porter. And our grand prize, again, remember, we try to pick the winners based on the engagement and you being here as part of the show. I think by a landslide. Obviously, it's a topic that she's very passionate about and wanting to learn more about. And so she's going to get time with Megan, and that is Venice Robbins. So, yay, Venice. She's, yay, there we go. Glitter and confetti and things.
I love it.
So, congrats to all of them. Now, a disclaimer, I am not involved with choosing the winners. That is our team behind the scenes. They're outstanding. But we also don't have one of those, you're not eligible, you're not eligible. So when I saw the names pop up, and they probably aren't aware of it because my name is Ia-Peterson because my wife and I took each other's last names. But my name prior to that was Peterson. So Emma Peterson Porter is my daughter. So congrats to her. You get a sticker of Dad.
That's awesome.
That's hilarious. So, anyway, Megan, we're like...
Thanks, Venice. Me too.
Oh, Venice. I mean, great comments. I'd love to hear y'all's conversation. I think it's going to be great. I've talked to Venice before, and she's a super person. You'll enjoy her story as she shares that with you. But Megan, super awesome of you to come and do this with us. I know you were one of the first people that we reached out to when we decided to launch the show. So you were definitely top of mind on the team at Wave.video. One of the things I remember they mentioned to me was that they were just super grateful for how often you used the tool. And so thank you for taking time out to do this.
My pleasure. This is fun. I knew it would be fun. I mean, always with Chad. But it's always fun too to be on the other side. It doesn't happen very often. Where I'm the interviewer.
Yeah, I guess especially when you're doing your own show, the ratio starts to get definitely skewed. So. But well, just so you know, you did great. So you're great.
Buddy.
You're great on either side. I had no doubt at all. So, guys, this has been fun. I learned a lot. The team puts together the podcast at the end of this episode, so I'm not as hands-on with it. So I enjoyed learning the things that you had to share with us. And next week, guys, we know it's Thanksgiving week. And so our show is moving to Tuesday because we still want to come and hang out with you and learn together how to live better. But we want to make sure that we allow you all the time that you can with your family. Next week's episode, however, is going to be different. We've got an incredible story of what Thanksgiving really means to someone at Wave.video. And I've heard this story. This is not your typical, I'm grateful, blah, blah, blah. This is a really cool story that you're going to want to hear. But not only that, we've got an mind-blowing special announcement that we've been keeping under our hats for a while that you're going to want to be here. Trust me, you're not going to want to miss what we're about to share with you. And you don't even have to wait a full week. You only have to wait almost a full week because we're doing it on a Tuesday instead of a Wednesday. So because we care that much, we're not making you wait as long. because that's how we are at Wave Video. Megan, thank you so much. We hope you have an incredible Thanksgiving, and can't wait to see you again in person here as soon as we can. Folks, from all of us here at Wave Video, thank you for being here, and we'll see you next week as we learn together how to live better.